Hello there guys, welcome to my very first Loomigurumi tutorial. Today we are making these little adorable BB-8 mini Loomigurumis. So because it's Loomigurumi, it is a hook only pattern, so you do not need your loom. The other things you will need are white bands, gray bands, and orange. And I'm also going to use two beads for his eyes. I have a mini pony bead, dropping them everywhere. A mini pony bead and then a seed bead, both black. I don't know the exact size of this one. I think it's 7mm, but I'm not quite sure. Anyways, okay, so those are what I'm using for the eyes. And I'm going to use a piece of dental floss to thread the smaller eye, and then a C-clip or some sort of stitch marker. So this guy is my original BB-8, and I made the head and the body separate, and then I tied the head on. I was able to figure out for this one how to make the head and the body in one continuous design, which I think makes things a little bit simpler, and then you don't use as many bands. So before we get started on our guy, I'm going to thread my little bead onto a white band. So my tiny little bead, I'm going to take my dental floss, not used clearly, and I'm going to put my band over one end so that it's threaded onto my floss. Now I'll fold the floss in half and take the two ends and thread them, the bead over the two ends. Then I'll pull the bead all the way down and then onto the band. Okay, so there's our bead onto that band, and my larger bead I am just able to push it through. Easy peasy. Okay, so we are going to make the dots separately and then tie them on. I went through quite a few versions of how I liked the dots and wanted to make them, and this was the best way I could figure it out, because with the Loomigurumi it's not really like a round design. I don't know, this is how I decided to do it. So I made 6 dots for my BB-8. I'll show you how to make one, and then you'll just repeat it 5 more times. So each dot is 1 gray and 3 orange bands. Take your gray band first, thread it over your hook, twist it without stretching it, and put it back over. So you now have 2 loops. Now take your orange band and put it on your hook as well. Now take an orange and put it in your hook and around your finger, and you're going to thread first the orange loops and then the gray loops onto it. Then you'll grab the other end of this orange band, and then we're going to tie it into a slip knot. So pull the top one through the bottom one, and don't tighten it like all the way, but just enough to hold it, because if you do it fairly loose, it'll make 4 stripes around your dot instead of like cinching it. Okay, so now you're gonna have to put your other side on and go through your gray one first again, and then tie your second slip knot around. So pull the band through, grab the top one, pull it through the bottom, and snug it up a little bit, but not too much. So the reason I put it through the gray first is just for consistency, really, because you can see here that it has 2 V's, but if you flip it over, there's kind of these horizontal ones on the knot, and I like it this way, facing up, and I don't want the horizontal on top, so it's really for consistency's sake. It doesn't really matter, but I don't know, I feel it's better this way. Okay, so we'll start with our first round, and I did write out the pattern. Whoa, I know, right? So we'll start with our magic ring. So we're starting from the top of the head and working our way down. Our cap band is going to be a white one, and I'll just wrap it around 3 times. Now our first round is gray, orange, white with our big bead, if it would not roll away, gray and orange, so it's a magic ring of 5. So we'll take our first gray one and thread our cap band around it, reclaim the end of our gray one, and pull it through as though you were tying it in a slip knot, but don't pull it tight. So now go back through all 3 loops on your cap band, so you'll have your gray single and your 3 white from your cap band, and we're going to thread an orange band, so pull your orange band through just the 3 white and reclaim the end. So now pull your orange, the top orange loop, through the second orange loop and the gray one. So what you kind of have is 2 slip knots in your cap band, but one is pulled through the other. So now we'll go back through our cap band, and we're going to use the one with the bead. So hold with the large bead. So grab one end of the band, and the other end is still in your finger. And you're doing essentially the same thing, but you just kind of have to watch out for the bead. So pull it through just the white loops, reclaim the end. Now pull that first white one through the orange, or the white and the orange. Okay, so we have 3 stitches are white, orange, and gray. Now we're going back through the cap band again, and we'll pull through our gray one. So pull it through the white loops, and then there. And then we'll do our last orange one, so pull it through the white, reclaim, pull through everything. Okay, so that's the end of our first round. Okay, for our second round, it is going to be an increase in all 5 stitches. So count out 10 bands, and then your third one is going to be the one with your black smaller bead. So what you'll see is you'll have your orange loop on your hook, and then if you count around, so starting with the orange on your hook, you count the gray one is 2, white is 3, orange is 4, this gray is 5. So you have 5 stitches so far, and we're going to put another 2 stitches in each of these 5, if it makes sense. So you have your first 2 gray loops, so don't, come on, nope. Okay, so don't grab this looped part here, the very first part, but the second, there'll be 2 kind of parallel bands, so come underneath both of those 2 bands, if anything would, okay. Yeah, so you kind of got this round one here, and then these 2 parallel ones here. So go underneath both of those gray ones, and you'll pull a white one through the gray, reclaim the end of the white, and pull it through the last 2. So now put your hook back under those same 2 gray ones. Oops. Pull it through, reclaim, pull through. Okay. So there's our second stitch. So now you come under the white, under these 2 orange loops, and we're going to pull through the band with our little black bead. So pull it under the 2 orange loops, grab the other end, pull it through everything else. So now you go back under those same orange, pull it through, and do another stitch. So now we're moving on to our next stitch. And we're going to do our first one in these white, and then the second stitch. And now you're, moving on to the gray. So you go under the gray, you'll pull one band through and slip knot it, and you go back under the gray and pull the second one through. So you can see inside this gray loop you have 2 stitches now. So now we just have our last set, which is our orange, and we'll pull one white through the orange and the second white through the orange. Okay, so this is our head. The next row we'll do is kind of connecting the head and the body. So the last round we did, we went under both loops here, went under both loops in the stitch. This round we're only going to be using the inside rows. So I'm going to put my C-clip, if I can figure out where it went, here it is, around the loop that's on our hook right now. Or not. Okay. So we've got our stitches, and we're only going to be working with the inner half of the stitches. So usually we'll go under both, but in order to kind of make a clean edge, we're not going to be using any of the outer stitches. We're only working with the inner ones. So this time, instead of doing 2 in every stitch, we're actually going to be doing a single and alternating with a decrease. So what that means, what I'll show you how to do, I can't speak. Alright, so we're going to come under just this first inner loop in the first stitch. So we've got here on our hook, we'll go underneath this first stitch, and then we'll also go underneath the inner loop in the second stitch. Now pull a white band through the first 2 loops, reclaim the end, and then pull the end through the other 2. Now our next stitch is just a single, so that was a decrease, where we combined 2 stitches. Now this is just a single, so go inside the inner loop of the next stitch, pull a band through that 1 loop, reclaim the end, pull the last one through. So that was a single, our next one is a decrease. So we're grabbing the inner loop from the first stitch, now the inner loop from the next stitch. And we'll pull our single band through the first 2, reclaim the end, pull it through. Now our next one is just a single, so go in this inner loop here, just 1, pull it through that 1, reclaim the end, pull through everything. Now our next one is a decrease, so you're coming in the inner loop in this stitch and the next stitch. Pull a band through those 2 and then through everything. And our next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're actually going to do a decrease in this one as well. So when you come up to your stitch marker, your C-clip, grab, so it'll be the one with your C-clip on and then the one right before it. So grab that one and the next one, and pull a single band through those and here. So it's kind of alternating single decrease, except with a decrease at the end. Alright, so now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops, which to go from 5 in the magic ring to 6 here is a little bit goofy, I know, but it's just kind of how it happened. Okay, so now we are back to doing double crochets in every stitch to make it widen out for his body. So everything's kind of smushed together now, but you can see the first stitch here, so not kind of here where there's one part of it is grabbed, but the next one we'll do double. So we're going to do a total of 12 stitches. So if you want to count out 12 bands, go ahead and do that, but I'm just gonna do what I know. Okay, so pull it through our first one, then we're going back into the same stitch and pulling through a second one. So now we'll go into our second stitch, and pull through our first one and the second one. Alright, so then our third stitch will go in here, do our first stitch, and then the second one. Now we'll do the next one, pull through, and pull through. Alright, so now we have 2 more to do. So oops. Alright, and then we have the one with the C-clip on. So go under both of these loops and pull a stitch through, go into the same spot again, and we'll pull through our last one. I think I maybe forgot to mention moving the C-clip on the last round, sorry about that. So now move your C-clip through onto the stitch on your hook. So now if you count around, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches all the way around. Okay, so now our next stitch row we're increasing to 18. So every other we'll do just a single stitch and then a double stitch, or an increase. So I'm actually going to count this one out. Okay, so what I have is 18 bands arranged in a pile, so single, double, single, double, single, double. So that's just going to make it easier for me to keep track of where I am in the pattern, and hopefully for you as well. So now we'll come back through where our C-clip is, and then our first stitch, we're just going to go under both the loops and pull through a single stitch. Our second spot, we'll pull through our first one, and then because it's a pile of 2, we'll go back through the same stitch and do a second stitch. Our next spot, we just have 1 band, so we'll do just a single, and then we'll move into our next spot and pull through 2 stitches. And our next one is just a single, so go into the next new spot and just do 1. Our next one is a double. Alright, just a heads up, my video may cut, and then if I run out of memory space, and then what I'll do is just make a part 2. But just a heads up, if it stops in a really random part, there might end up being a second part to it. And I'm also I'm noticing the best at teaching Loomigurumi over a video. So, yeah. It might be best to do this if you've already known how to do Loomigurumi. Okay, so we're coming up to our last ones. So our last single one should be next to the one with our C-clip. Go in the one with our C-clip, and this one is an increase. So we're doing 2 stitches. so now we'll move our C-clip onto, oh dear, it's really gotten stuck. Ah, the one on our hook. So now what we'll do is we'll just do 18 rows or stitches, and they're just single crochets all the way around. And we'll do 2 rows of just single crochets. So I'm going to count out 2 piles of 18 and then continue looming. Alright, so now I have 2 piles of 18 bands, and I'll get started and then I'll probably let you continue on your own, probably just because you don't need a video running while you're doing the same thing over and over again. So we'll go into the first stitch here, pull 1 band through, reclaim the end, pull it through, and we'll go into our next stitch and throw our band, and then we'll just pull a single band through, pull it through, single band through, reclaim, pull through. Alright, so you're just repeating this 2 times around, a single band, single crochet in every stitch, easy peasy, and that's going to form the majority of his body. So I'll pause the video and come back when you are finished with both of your rows. Alright, so I just have my last 2 stitches to do, just to make sure we're ending on the right spot. Here's our last, where the stitch marker is. We'll pull it through this one, and then the one where the stitch marker is, we'll pull through the last one. And we'll move it on to this one. Okay, so there is pretty much most of BB-8's body. This bead sticks out really funny. Okay, so we're going to actually begin decreasing to close off the bottom of the body. This is probably a better example. And what we'll do is every other stitch is going to be a single and a decrease. So we're going back to 12 bands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, that one's broken. We're going back to 12, and every other is going to be a single like we just did, and then the other is going to be a decrease. Alright, I'll show you how to do a decrease. Normally not just using the inside. So for your decrease, what I like to do, and it hides a little bit better than other techniques, is if you take, what we're going to do is we're going to tie these 2 stitches together. So instead of making them bigger, we're making it smaller. So I'm going to take the inside loop from this stitch, and then the outside loop from that stitch. And I'll pull my band through, reclaim here. Okay, so now when we do our single, make sure you aren't grabbing the stitch that you just tied to the other one. You're going into the next entirely new stitch. So this one is just going to be a single. Our next one is the decrease. So grab the inner loop of the first stitch, and then the outer loop of the second stitch. Some decreasing techniques people use, like grab all 4, but then it tends to leave a gaping hole, and that doesn't look so nice. Then we'll go into our next entirely clean stitch and just pull through a single band. We'll go to our next one and we'll grab the inner and the outer and tie them together, skipping to the next stitch, pull through another band, inner, outer, pull it through. Our next one is just a single, pull through. Next is a decrease, next one is a single. Really the hardest part with decreasing is just to remember which one is next. Sometimes I finish a stitch and I can't remember which one? So our last one with the C-clip on it is our single. So pull our single through and move our C-clip. Okay, so at this point is where I like to stop and tie on our dots. So I'll show you how to do the first two, and then you can do the next couple ones. So take your dot, and I like to do 3 like around the top. Like if you look in this one, there's 3 on the top, and then 3 kind of in the circle on the bottom. But you can arrange them however you'd like. So take your dot, and I like to do it the gray side face up, and sort of position it wherever you want it. And now take your hook and come up through an opening kind of next to where this end loop is, and pull that orange loop inside the body. Now you can see that you have the hole where the orange loop is going into, and then we're going to skip the next empty space and come up through the next one. So you kind of have it pulled through this stitch, an empty one, and then pull it through the next one. So without dropping your second one, I don't know, whatever. So now you should have 2 orange loops on your hook. Pull a white band or any band through and slip knot that fairly snug. Okay, and then what I also like to do is, now that the end of the orange slip knots are being held, I like to kind of tug up on the loops around the dot a little bit to kind of position them into stripes. It works a lot better with the opaque. You can see there are 4 stripes instead of like a slip knot. Alright, I'll show you how to do the dot again. So kind of hold it where you want it. Use your hook, come up through next to somewhere where you want it, and pull that orange loop through into the body. So keep that on your hook, and then skip the next empty stitch and come up through the next stitch. Then grab the end of our orange slip knot and pull it through as well. And then we'll slip knot that. Alright, so position the rest of the dots where you would like them. Yep, so those are kind of where I'd put the bottom ones, or the top ones. The ones along the bottom edge you can do fairly close to where you're currently working. Like I would even put them down like into the row you just did, because we'll still finish off the body, and you don't want there to be too much of an empty space on his bottom. Or you could do put them on after we do the next row as well. Alright, I'm going to put the rest of mine on and come back when you are done. Okay, so I just added the third one along the top edge. I decided that there really wasn't enough room to do the bottom ones yet, which I did it at this point on my last BB-8, so it maybe works for you, but I'm going to wait one more round. So this next round is going to be the exact same as the first, or the one we just did, sorry. So it's going to be a single and a decrease. So I'm going to start with a single, so we'll go under that first loop and pull it through. And then our next one is a decrease. Pull it through those 2, reclaim, pull through. Next one is a single. So I guess technically the correct way would be to do every single one a decrease, but I find I don't like how that looks. So this kind of keeps the bottom closing together, but it doesn't leave as many holes as if you do too many decreases. So inner and outer, if that makes any sense. Good ratio of closing without there not being enough bands to actually fill in the space. Okay, so this one is actually ending on a decrease. Pull it through. and move our stitch marker. Okay, so now I feel like I have enough room to attach the rest of my dots. So pause the video, add them where you would like, and then we'll stuff him. Okay, so now I have added the rest of the dots onto my BB-8. I'm also going to be stuffing him at this point. So I'm using some fluff. I don't know what the technical name for this is. You could use anything. I've stuffed Loomigurumi things with C-clips, old like bands, although with the white the colors kind of might show through. And I'm just kind of stuffing this into that hole. Try not to stretch it out too much. And okay, looks good to me. Not so much that it like stretches out the bands, but enough to give it some shape and structure. And I've buried my C-clip. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here's the loop with my C-clip on it. I'm going to keep doing alternating decreases and singles till I get to where I think it's finished. So I'm going to go into this first stitch and pull it through. See, there's no exact science really for closing them off, just kind of, yeah. Anyway, so now the next one I'm going to do a decrease, so I'm going to go in through the inside and then the outside loop, pull a band through. Next one I'm doing a single, and then the next one I'll do a decrease, so I'm grabbing the inside loop, the outside loop, pull it through, and then one more single. So it's actually the one right before I get to the C-clip, but I think it's pretty much closed in for me. So I'm going to take my C-clip off, and then I'll come in and grab a couple loops. So this one here, and maybe that one there. And pull a single band through, and tie that in a slip knot. So now I'll pull this in, so it'll come up from the top of the head all the way through the figure, and kind of yank it in without grabbing so much stuffing. Little stuffing grabbing as you can. Okay, so we'll pull that in, and boom. There is our BB-8. If this knot sticks out, try to just, yeah. Anyways, okay, so for detail, and to kind of make the join between the head and the body a little bit clearer, I like to put a single gray band around his head. And I also just kind of hold him right at the join and pull these bands out just a little bit. I find that makes the, I don't know, the join between the head and the body a little bit nicer. I also think using a wrapped bands instead of the bigger bead would have been a good idea, because that one sticks out quite a ways. Alrighty, well, there he is. There's your little mini Loomigurumi BB-8. I hope you enjoyed making him. Be sure to check out the rest of my figure videos, and of course my Instagram. My Instagram is the same thing, at Evelyn the Nerdy. And feel free to DM me if you have any questions about any figures, if you need help or anything, just let me know. Alright, have a great rest of your day. Bye.